Thank you, Lena. It is so wonderful to be here with you all. You are the people looking after everyone else, so it's really important that you have the right tool to look after yourself. So my background and my passion is all about the body and using the body as a therapeutic tool, first to understand where symptoms of burnout might be showing up within your body, and also using it to partner with your body to release trauma and to help recovery from burnout. So really looking at the adaptability part of the resilience model that Kate spoke about. So I'm going to get my slides up. I encourage you all to just have a little stretch. We are so used to holding a lot of unconscious tightness and tension through our body. So just encourage you to move a little bit. Kate shared such important information and tools and strategies. And I just want to acknowledge that there might be a different level of sensations or emotions or thoughts and considerations that are coming up as you absorbed all of that. So I just encourage you to make space for that and to allow that to happen. I know I was definitely sat there having some thoughts around it myself. So I'm just going to share my screen with you all. Okay, hopefully that is all good. So yeah, burnout and the body. I'm going to share a really useful model of the nervous system with you. So one of the things that I love to do is help people understand their nervous systems. So essentially they can befriend their nervous system and understand what's going on when they are in burnout or on the road to burnout, so that they can start to reverse that with small micro practices that are easy to incorporate every day. Because when you're really busy, you don't have a whole lot of time on your hands. And I understand that. So that's my background and passion, to make it as accessible and easy as possible for you to look after yourself. So the polyvagal model of nervous system theories was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, and it talked about the three modes of being and the three nervous system states. So the first one is flow, and this is the human system of the nervous system. So this is 200 million years old. It's the newest from an evolutionary point of view. And this is all about when you're in flow, when you're doing something that you love, or you generally feel really happy and positive. You have the capacity to meet daily demands. So you don't feel overwhelmed. You feel like you've got the right amount of energy to do the things that you need to do within a day and within a week. You feel more open. So you've got more creativity. You're better at problem solving. You feel more connected to yourself, and you also feel more connected to other people. Communication, so you can easily communicate and find words. And I know definitely when I've been burnt out on the opposite scale, I find it really hard, when you can think of a word, but you can't quite get it out. So your communication's really good when you're in a flow state. You've got ideas, you feel connected, you're open, you're expansive. And really importantly, you're present to life. You're present to the people in your life. You're present to the things that you're doing. You're present with food. You're present with your environment. And you're much more likely to go with the flow. So when Kate was talking about resilience and things going wrong, and you almost feel really overwhelmed by how much, this is the opposite state of that. When you feel that things can happen, but you've got a plan B, C, D, and you're going to be good. So that's the optimal state. Obviously, it's really difficult to be in that state all the time because we are human and we have challenges. But from a nervous system point of view, that's when you're the most calm, you're the more relaxed, and you're open and you're connected. So that's really nice to have in your mind as where you'd like to get to. And I'm just going to move on to the next slide. Okay. And then we've got go, which I imagine most people are a bit more familiar with than flow. And I know I have been in the past. So this is 400 million years old, and this is the mammalian part of your nervous system. So we call it go, as in go, go, go. But the adaptive response is that you've got a lot of energy. And almost when Kate talked about the honeymoon period, it's when you're excited, but that good kind of excitement. So you want to act. You've got a lot of momentum. You want to move forward. You've got goals. You've got plans, that excitement kind of energy feeling. And almost like when you're nervous, excited, and you've got the bubbles of energy, but it feels good and it mobilizes you to create change, to reach your goals, to move forward with your life. When you are in go mode too much, And there's nothing wrong with this mode, but when we spend too much time in this branch of the nervous system, it then becomes maladaptive because we get stuck there. And that's when we feel anxious, or we have that overwhelmed feeling that we want to escape. We don't want to do life anymore because it's just becomes too much. And often we feel angry. So this is when, and I think we've probably all been in this situation, we've got a lot on, we feel overwhelmed, and somebody asks for something seemingly simple, and it tips us over the edge, and we feel angry and we feel resentful. And then we end up feeling often guilty and shameful about that. That's a really normal response to be in when you've been stuck in your anxious go for a lot. That's also when you're hangry. So it generates a lot of energy in your body to either go out and hunt and kill to get food. That is what hunger is from a nervous system point of view. But it's when that hunter kind of energy can tip into being really dysregulated. This is also when you find it really hard to switch off. So when you take a break from work, or you're on holiday, or you've got, I don't know, 5-10 minutes even to eat your lunch, and you just feel like you're still highly wired. And this can often lead the nervous system to stay in highly wired states. So that's when you rely much more on caffeine, because strangely enough, the nervous system loves balance, even if that balance means you're stuck in anxiety. So that's sugar, that's caffeine, that's scrolling, that's staying up late to watch something because you can't switch off. And it's because your nervous system has almost become stuck in the stress response. And that cocktail of hormones can be quite addictive because it's very mobilizing and very activating. This is the point when your body is knocking on the door and saying, hey, this is now not a great place to be. You're snappy, you're highly strung, you're wired, you can't switch off, and you find it really hard to calm down and relax. It will be really hard to meditate in this state, and I'll talk about that a bit later. So things that you could normally do to calm you down might not be accessible, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. That's just the way your nervous system's highly activated. So the next one is slow, and that's the oldest system. So that's our reptilian system of being, and that's 500 million years old. So the adaptive version of this is rest and digest. Think about your breath, heart rate, homeostasis of hormones through your body. So this is when kind of that afternoon nap, and you just feel really calm and relaxed, and you're breathing slowly and deeply, and everything feels balanced, but it feels very slow. The maladaptive response is disconnection, numbness, hopelessness, compassion fatigue, and really just feeling a general numbness. So often with the go state, when we're highly anxious, the body can't maintain that for long periods of time because the energy tax on your system is huge. And this is when you tip into burnout. And that's when you become disconnected and numb, because that system of go almost just can't go anymore, and you've fatigued it. So then you go into slow, where your whole body starts to shut down to preserve energy. So they're the three nervous system states. It might be really useful to just track over the next week or so which system you're in most often, and also which system the people around you are in. So sometimes it also helps to be more compassionate with your colleagues and with your co-workers, to be like, they're stuck in this nervous system response and they actually can't get out of it right now. So one of the things that is really important, and Kate mentioned this around not feeling shame around burnout, that it's an occupational hazard of the jobs that you all do, but also there's so many individual differences within your body and within everyone's body. So a really good analogy came from Michaela Boehm, and she is a trauma therapist and specialist that does incredible work and has done a lot of work on this for around 20 years. She came up with a really great analogy. And it was, imagine that your individual body is like a vessel or a vase or a cup. And everyone's cup is shaped a little bit differently or a lot differently. And the things that shape that vase are things like genetics, trauma, culture and what's expected from a societal point of view, and also just your personality. And some people have got a lot of resilience to deal with stress, and some people don't have as much resilience, and that's because of all of these factors. So it's not an individual thing. It's a whole network of things behind that. So I know for me, I don't have a great level of resilience, and that's what got me into this work, because now I do a lot to build that up. So really, the key is understanding your nervous system and then being able to work with it. So each little stressor that you have during the day is like a drip going into that cup. You wake up a bit late, drip. You have an argument with your partner, drip. You spill coffee in the car as you're busily trying to hurry to work, drip. You trip over, drip. And then so on it goes, drip, drip, drip. And depending on the size of your cup and how much water's already in there, it's going to get to a point where all of the drips and the stresses become so overwhelming for your system that you end up in burnout. So one of the things, before I talk about the bodily symptoms of burnout, that would be really interesting for you to do after this webinar is to do an energy inventory practice. So look at the drips that are going in, and we call that almost energy out. So what are the stresses that are happening daily that are really impacting you? And what are the ways that you can empty your cup? So things like sleep, which I know can be very elusive when you're burnt out or you've got a high level of stress. Meditation, and I'll talk about a little movement practice that you can do before you meditate to mobilize and get rid of that go energy so that you can settle more deeply into a meditative experience. Time in nature, for example, or connecting with friends, or coming back to that purpose and passion, actually, that Kate talked about, is another way of giving you energy to carry on. So it's just really helpful to almost look at supply and demand, how your cup is shaped, and how much energy you need to put back in. So when you're really busy, you need to double down on self-care. Now, that might seem unrealistic, but that could just be literally taking 3 deep breaths every hour. So small micro practices done throughout the day and throughout the week are far better for nervous system resilience than one practice once a week. So, talking about burnout and bodily symptoms. So some of the things that you might experience when you're burnt out are actually a numbness and a lack of bodily sensation. So when you've got huge amounts of stress hormones constantly circulating in your body, so all of those drips and stresses in your cup, and you're not accessing things that help you empty your cup, your body basically just tends to numb out completely and shut down, because if it actually realized how much stress it was under and how much physical strain and pressure, you wouldn't be able to carry on. So in one way, it's your body really looking after you and protecting you, but it means that all of your sensations are dulled. So often I have people come that are hugely burnt out, or they've been through a lot of trauma, and we start to meditate, and they close their eyes and they get into a relaxed state, and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like my stomach's in knots, or my shoulder's really sore, or my jaw. And they're like, is this the meditation? What's going on? I thought it was supposed to be helpful. And what it is you relax the system, the stress hormones back off, and so does the numbness, and your body resensitizes. So you feel the areas of your body that feel tight or tense, and you might even have experienced that at the start with Lena's meditation of, oh, I didn't realize I was carrying this. So other ways that you might notice, and some of these might be really obvious for you and some might be subtle or you can't detect them at all, but are a tight neck, shoulder and jaw. And maybe just check in with yourself now. Loosen your jaw, relax your shoulders, soften down. Tight bum and thighs. So when we're mobilized for action all the time and we don't get to rest, our whole body tenses up and squeezes the energy upwards. So a lot of people find that they've got really tight and they're under a lot of stress and pressure. Digestive issues. So if you think about a lizard, which is the slow mode where burnout is heavily linked to, that branch of the nervous system, your digestion really slows down because your body simply doesn't have the energy or the output to be able to digest your food. So that's when you might be burnt out, tired, stressed. You eat your dinner and you just feel like it sits as a lump in your stomach. And that's really common for people to have digestive issues. And then that leads to weight gain and just kind of that band of weight around your middle because your metabolism slowed down so much. The next thing is emotional numbness. So that beautiful flow state that I talked about, you can access pleasure, you can access joy and happiness and connection and meaning and purpose and all of those lovely emotions and sensations. When we're burnt out and we're stressed and we've been through a lot of trauma, the body just numbs out. And often we can only access 2 or 3 key emotions, and the spectrum of emotions and the capacity to feel is really reduced. So that's where we get compassion fatigue. Sexual dysfunction is something that we don't speak about enough, but stress massively impacts. So the body is not going to set up for procreation if you don't have any energy and you're depleted. So for menstruators, that might mean an impact to your menstrual cycle. And for people that menstruate, your menstrual cycle is the key indicator of your overall health. So if you've got breaks or problems with your cycle, that's your body saying, hey, we're not in a healthy enough state even to be able to think about procreation. And so it's less about whether or not you want to have children, but more about a biological marker in your body saying you're not healthy enough to be able to do that. So that's something that's really key. And also when you're emotionally numb and when you're numb in the body, you're not going to want intimacy. And this can really affect your mental health. It can affect your relationships, and it can affect the intimacy that you have with yourself. So it's a really big one that we don't talk about enough, and is really important to address for overall health and well-being. The other one is breath. So breath is often restricted to the upper chest. So if you look at how a baby breathes beautiful, big, deep belly breaths, and that fills the whole body with oxygen and nutrients, as you know. When we're stressed and anxious and in go and slow mode, the breath is often restricted to the upper chest, and we feel like we can't take deep breaths and we don't breathe deep down into our belly. So they're symptoms, they're not all of them, but when we're thinking about noticing burnout, these are some really key signs that the body is telling you that it's feeling the strain of the workload, of the work pressure, of how you're relating to everything at the minute. So there are so many quick and easy ways that you can empty your cup. I know it can feel a lot thinking about these nervous system states, and it can also be overwhelming when you feel like you're burnt out and you don't have the energy at the moment to even do some of the things that might need to be done to look after yourself. And that's where I'm really passionate, as I mentioned, about making it as easy as possible for you to empty your cup so it doesn't get to a place where you're overwhelmed and burnt out. And if you are overwhelmed and burnt out, there's some ways that you can just bring your nervous system back to a state of regulation, which is really what we're looking for. And in a way, these practices are just like going to the gym for your body, but going to the gym for your nervous system. So we want to tone the nervous system so that you develop increased capacity and resilience to deal with your challenges, because often the challenges are going to remain the same, but how do you get your nervous system fit and well enough to be able to handle those challenges, to be in flow state more often, where you are better at problem solving, you're more creative, you've got more capacity to deal with what's going on. So one of the really good practices that Michaela Boehm discusses, and it's been so good for the people I work with, is move as you feel. So this is to help resensitize the body, but she would see clients through the day that had the worst types of trauma that are imaginable. And she'd get home, she'd be wired, she'd be unable to sleep, and she'd just almost feel numb about everything. And she just got onto all fours and started to move the body in any way that felt good or that just felt like in the moment she needed to. And she just spent 5 to 10 minutes every single night before bed doing that. And before long, she noticed that she felt calmer. She could feel into her body more. She could release tension from the day. She could sleep better. And it's the body's way of releasing the stored energy, emotion, and tension that's built up through everything that you face in a day. So really releasing through the body and through the muscles. Yoga Nidra, we have some on the Wombat app. So this is a really beautiful meditation practice that you can do lying down. And what I love about it is it's so effortless. You lie down, it brings awareness to different parts of your body, and it gets you into a really nice state that's between wakefulness and sleep, where your body can start to repair the nervous system. This is really good before bed if you just can't sleep, but you want to relax the body. And it's also really good first thing in the morning if you want to build a bit of capacity and resilience, because you know you've got a really big day ahead. And deep belly breathing, as I mentioned, is just a way to soothe and calm your nervous system by telling it it's safe. shaking practice, which I'm really looking forward to taking you through in just a moment. Gentle bouncing is also really helpful, just bouncing up and down on the feet just to release and soften the muscles and get into the body. And half sun salutations, so really simple ways just to move the body and do it in a way that brings energy flow and blood flow and more oxygen to the body.